Okay. So first of all, of course, good Voch and good Chodesh. Chodesh Elul, Motzei Shabbos, Rei. Interesting, we're getting closer to, as we're getting closer to Rosh Hashanah, we started with, last week's Pasha was Pasha Ekev Tishmon, if you're going to hear. And this Pasha we already see. Pashas Rei are getting closer to the certainty of Rosh Hashanah, B'ezrat Hashem. So it should help us, B'ezrat Hashem, to do tshuva and be the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be, B'ezrat Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem should all be in Uman Rosh Hashanah, B'ezrat Hashem. So, the minhag, this is the Maaseh of the Baal Shem HaKadosh. This is Gula to say Maaseh Baal Shem HaKadosh on Motzei Shabbos. But this is Rosh Chodesh Elul. So it was the minhag of the Baal Shem HaKadosh to be mekar of people that were, very simple people. And he had a lot of people, that admired him, that came close to him. But the great Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, the big ones, they were not absolutely convinced about this kind of conduct. Not only this, but many times the Baal Shem Tov used to send his big Talmidim to small people to learn from them. Different kind of inyanim like tmimus, like bitachon, simple amuna, avos Yisrael, these kind of things. But still, it was difficult for them, to accept this. So one of the summer Shabbosim, something happened that really rattled, the holy Chabur of the Baal Shem Tov. And he said that Shabbos came a lot of guests, and some of them were very, very simple people, people that Bala Malacha and people used to have hotels, used to have wagon drivers, and people that would grow behemoths and chicken, and the peddlers in the market and so forth. And in a Sudas Laila, in Shabbos by night, Baal Shem Tov was makar very much. And to one of the simple ones, the Baal Shem Tov gave a little bit of the wine that remained in his glass. To the second one, he gave to drink in a special glassware. He gave a little bit of the wine that remained from Kiddush. To the other one, he let him drink in the special cup where he made Kiddush. The third one, he gave a piece of challah, from where he made a moitzi. And to others, he gave fish and flesh from his bowl. All different kind of hold on just 1 second. So, these are really, really great inyanim. To us it may sound like, okay, so he gave them, he liked them, he felt friendly to them, he gave them. But when the tzaddik emes gives somebody a shirayim, it's a huge thing. There's a Maaseh that one of the Talmidim of Rabbeinu, he was a sheikhet. But you think this particular one wasn't just a sheikhet, it was a great mekubal, and he asked Rabbeinu once, he said, most of his parnasa was Erev Rosh Hashanah. Rabbeinu wanted everybody to be by him Rosh Hashanah. So he asked Rabbeinu whether it's okay if he come to him with, uttering, using a Shem Kodesh, Al Pi Kabbalah, transporting, teleporting, whatever you want to call it. Shem Kodesh, Shem Kodesh, it's a. So this is the madrega that he was on. He was able to teleport with Sheamus. Rabbeinu told him, no, to me you come with wagons and horses. Don't, not with Sheamus. And this sheikhet, his name was Rabbi Abba. And he had a son. And one day, on Rosh Hashanah, he saved money. Rabbi Abba was a poor man, but he saved money. And he bought a very fancy Kiddush cup for Rabbeinu. And as they traveled to Rabbeinu, there were a lot of manias, and there was rain and mud, and they couldn't get there. It's himself they came to a certain place, and they wanted to rent a special wagon that will take him to Uman. And the wagon driver would not do it, unless there were actually, a wagon, I think, with 4 horses, really a wagon that was capable of taking them all the way. But the wagon driver wanted a lot of money. So Rabbi Abba had no other choice except to sell the Kiddush cup that he bought for Rabbeinu so he can pay the wagon driver and get to Rabbeinu. And Taka, they go to Rabbeinu to Breslev, and the first time they saw Rabbeinu was, after the Philo and the Kiddush. Rabbeinu was making Kiddush. So Rabbeinu turns to them and he says to Rabbi Abba, I'm going to take out the eyes of the Sitra Achra for that cup that he took away from you. And he said, what favor, what good should I do to you? And he said to Rabbi Abba, for you, it's not worth it. I will do any favor for you in this world. You don't need it. For his son, Rabbeinu took a spoon from his soup and gave to the son of Rabbi Abba. He drank it. That year, Rabbi Abba passed away, and his son became a very wealthy person, very, very wealthy. When the tzaddik gives a shiraim from his tzaddik emes, give shiraim, it's a huge thing. So here's the Baal Shem Tov giving shiraim, to the simple people, and more and more and more and more. His talmidim, his great talmid, could not understand that, could not fathom that. There was a minute by the Baal Shem Tov that the simple guests would come to his Suda Shabbos. They would eat by his tish, only 2 Sudas of the 3. The Suda Rishayna on Erev Shabbos, and Suda Shlishis before the Shabbos goes out. But the second Suda in the morning was only for the close talmidim to Baal Shem Tov. Then the other guests were not allowed to come, not even to come and see it from afar. It was they could not come. So all these simple guests of that Shabbos went after the 8 shachos of Shabbos in the house to Bet HaKnesset Baal Shem Tov in the time of the second Suda. And since they were very, very simple people, they didn't know anything more than just saying Chumash and Tehillim. Mimela, each one started doing whatever it is he could according to his madrega. When the Baal Shem Tov was sitting in the second Suda, he put his Talmidim, every person at his seat, certain Seder that he had. And then he started saying the Torah, and his Talmidim were like blown away, they were basking in the light of the Shekhinah and were glad in all the chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu did with them. They were zocher to read Talmidei Baal Shem Tov. And at that particular moment, there were some Talmidim that were thought, why did Baal Shem Tov mekarev with these simple people like that? They don't even understand what the Baal Shem Tov is even saying. And while they were thinking this, the Baal Shem Tov suddenly became very serious. And he says, in the place where Baalei Tshuva are standing, a total tzaddikim, complete tzaddikim cannot stand. There are two ways in Avodas Hashem. One day is avodah of the tzaddikim. Another way is the avodah of the Baalei Tshuva. And the avodah of the simple people is the madreg of the Baalei Tshuva, because they're always broken. They always feel how inadequate they are. Baal Shem Tov said that he started singing Nigunim and singing, and the Talmidim that had these thoughts, they realized that Baal Shem Tov, he knew what they were thinking. So when they finished singing, the Baal Shem Tov Kodesh opened his holy eyes and sing another Nigun and close their eyes. And while his Talmidim have their eyes closed and they're singing, suddenly all the Talmidim heard unbelievable singing and music that is mixed up with begging and longing and supplications. One side it says, Boine Shaloilom, Imus Hashem Ta'irus, Kesef Tzoruf, another one, Oy, Boy Lonu, Chaneni Hashem Nasein is from Tehillim. And this one saying, my dear father, Tate, Chaneni Elokim Chaneni, Ki B'chach Hasoy Nafshi, V'sek Nafech Haseh Ad Yavohavos. And so on, Geval, Levinu B'Shamayim, another pasuk of Tehillim. They all find a place. What about me? And they are hearing this singing and these crying and they're shaking. They were shaking. They were rattled to the core, and their eyes were closed, but they were like crying like anything. Their hearts was broken from the koilos and the begging supplications of these Balei Tehillim. And each one of the Baal Shem Tov's Chabura, wished in his heart that he was zecher to this kind of voice Hashem. And the Maggid of Mezritch that was there at that time once told his Talmud, the Baal Tanya, that at that time he had such longing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he never ever felt before. He says even his shoes were wet from the sweat and the tears of tshuva from the bottom of his heart. And when they finished singing, Hashem HaKadosh remained with great dveikus. And he said to them, that song, that nigun that you heard, that's the singing of the simple people. They're saying Tehillim between us. And the Maggid of Mezritch says afterwards he was with Tzar for a very long time, that he doubted his Rebbe, by being a car of the simple people. And he did some tikkunim in order to try to rectify this, but he wasn't able to. until one night he saw an incredible vision that calmed him down. He saw one Eichel in Gan Eden, in the different chambers of Gan Eden, one chamber, that babies, Tinok Shabbos Rabban, was sitting and learning Chumash. Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting ahead of the table. And the children, these are children that passed away while they were young. They learned Pashas Lech Lecha. And Moshe Rabbeinu explained to him, how is it possible? Avram Avinu said, how do I know that I will inherit the land? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, how is it possible that Avram Avinu was doubting HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So he says, you should know. These doubts, they emanate from the gashmius of the corporeal body. Even a holy body is still, it's flesh and blood. And then when the Rav Magid heard, that from the tzad of the guf, of the body, there can be such thoughts, these are thoughts that come of their own. It's not like you wanted them to come. So Mimela, he calmed down for having these doubts about the Baal Shem Tov. He realized it's mitzvah of his body. Bezat Hashem, hopefully, will continue what Rabbeinu said about the simple people. But being that last week we didn't have the chance to learn actually the Sicha, so let's share the Sicha now. Talking about Sicha number 82. 82 is a short Sicha. We'll just say what Rabbeinu says here. This is how I know, says David HaMelech, that you want me. That my enemy will not rejoice over me. Yaria is enough rejoicing. But the man says, with that fact that my enemies are not Yaria, are not bad, they're not right, but it's tzaddikim, they are the one. This is how I know that you really want me. Beinu says that when tzaddikim macholik on a person or another tzaddik is because that they want to save him from judgments. But the one that I actually want to sort of be more, to concentrate more on is Sicha number 83. Be'inyan hayirois va'apchodim sha'odo misyoro mispached. That Inyan of the fears and phobias and anxieties that the person has in his life, from different kind of things, from people, and these are people that cannot harm him in any way. And he says, and it sort of seems that it's only at the end when a person passes away and lies on the floor with his feet aiming at the door. Then you'll have a true Yeshiva Das, and you look at himself. And you see the truth, that what? That all the fears, all the anxieties, all the fun that he had from people or whatever, maybe they'll do this, or they'll do that. He says everything is shtus. Everything is nonsense. What can a person do to you that the Kodesh Baruch Hu did not say that they should do to you? This is the same thing, is Inyan HaTaivus. Because at that time when a person is going to leave this world and lie on the floor, he will see very well that he simply wasted his life with nonsense, with confusions. And who forced him to it? Only then he will see the truth really well. And really, Rabbeinu says, there is these inyanim are deeper than they seem. He says, because there is a thing about a person, a certain issue, and on that issue, a person is afraid, and he has all these anxieties and all these phobias, even though he knows completely well that this matter that he's so afraid of cannot damage him, cannot cause him any harm at all. It doesn't matter. He still has a great fear from it. And he says, because that thing that exists by a person, that is the part of the person that is being afraid. Like we're saying, there's some people that are, they're like physical cowards. They have fears of nonsense, of shtus. And not only, but they themselves know that it's nonsense. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nevertheless, it scares them a lot. It's just like we see that somebody's being scared from behind. So, boom, from behind. So a person, first of all, is scared. Even before he had time to internalize what the danger is, if there is any danger, he still don't know. They came from behind. So he starts being scared first. Before the das has time to recognize what is Igniftacha, what am I afraid of? Already that inyan, that part of the person that is scared, already starting being afraid. He says the same thing is the inyan of Titus and the vices. The same thing, even though the person knows that this taiva is shtus lahevel, is nonsense, still there is that part of a person, there's a thing by a person, that part of him has this taiva, has this vice. And even though a person knows this is hevel gomer, and he says, Al ken bevadai, this is what Rabbeinu says here. This is the main thing that obviously it's tested together with the Sichos that we said before. When a person knows that this is hevel gomer, that this is total shtus, if a person will just stop and reflect on himself, very easily he'll be able to chase away all the fears, all the phobias, and all the types, because he really knows that they're nothing. And when a person does that, it could very easily chase all these things away. Because why? Because he knows that they're nothing. But there is a certain part inside him that is afraid, that part in him that has those vices, that is craving for those vices. But a person is Baal Bechir, a person has free choice at all time. And it's Rabbeinu says, a person can get himself used easily, move away from his mind that thing that he's scared of in all these types. Obviously, as you can see, this is a crucial and very, very important sicha, because we all have that. As we said, the Magid HaKodesh has this, he says this, the thought, the doubts that they had about Baal Shem Tov come from the side of the body. And that's what Rabbeinu calls a certain part inside a person that has these taivas, this side of the person that has these phobias and anxieties and so forth. And this is a very, very important lesson for us, because we can find ourselves sitting by a table with guests, and and we talk, and suddenly we start getting locked in on, we see maybe the wife of one of the guests, and there's a thought that comes into our minds, our licentious thoughts of taiva, of And it's a thought that can get into your mind and won't leave you. And it seems to be something that's like beyond you. And it's nonsense. What do you mean it's nonsense? It's nonsense. Well, let's say that you could do whatever it is you want to do. What are you going to do? Are you nuts? And you're going to do something with somebody else's wife. What is this? I mean, it's a shtus. If a person reflects on this and he says, listen, the fact that I have this taiva is not because I'm bad. I'm obviously not super clean, but it's not because I'm bad. It's because there is a part in me that has these taivas. And I think that part of me is not me, like the Maggid of Mizrich saw in his dream, this vision in his dream. It's mitzad aguf. Mani said. So I have these thoughts. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to push my head away. Yeah, but the thought comes again. So I move my head away. But it comes back again. So it comes again. So you tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look what's going on. I mean, I have these thoughts. I don't want them. I know it's a shtus. I try to move away. They come back. And before you know it, it leaves you. Before you know it leaves you. The same thing when a person has a fear. A person has a fear, has a phobia. If you stop and you're saying this, Nelson writes it in Kut Alons, and says, I don't know what's going to be. They're going to catch me, they're going to put me in jail, they're going to do this and that. Nelson speaks, even it says, even mortal danger. Nelson says, look, nobody can do anything to you because Baruch Hu doesn't want to do. And not only because Baruch Hu wants somebody to do something to you, nothing in the world can prevent it. Nothing. He says, even when a person's in physical danger, he says, just stop and reflect for a minute. Let's see what's the worst that can be. What's the worst that can be? So it says, if chas v'chalila, these people will take your life. So if you die like Kiddush Hashem, everybody has to die anyhow. What's a better way to go? It's, that's the Cadillac way to go to Shammai. He says, but on most cases, 999 times or more out of 1,000,000, this ball is going to save you. Don't worry about it. So if you come and you think and says, okay, listen, what's the worst it can be? Okay, so that's what it'll be. That's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if that's the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to be, fine. I mean, it's going to happen no matter what. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, it's the best thing. When you accept that, suddenly it's like a balloon that they let the air out. That part in you that is anxious and is fearful and is the paranoid part in you quietens down. Okay. What Rabbeinu teaches us here is that it's a process. I'm an anxious person, I'm an anxious person, or this and that. Every time that anxiety comes, you can just sit down, reflect. What can happen? Just a second. Just a few, wait. What's the worst that can happen? No. Because Baruch Hu wants this to happen, so that'll happen. It's the best thing for me. And yet, You know, 99.9999%, what I'm afraid of won't even happen. So beseder. And you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. It diminishes until it goes away. The same thing about a title. You stop and you think, just what's going to happen if I do it? What's going to happen if I do it? I'm going to give din v'cheshbon. It's going to be judgment. Ultimately, it's going to be judgment. It's going to be the world to come. It's going to be, the great day of judgment. It's going to come. Doesn't matter how far off it is, but it is going to come. You can't get away with anything. Why do it? It's a shtus. It's a nonsense. Well, because I want now. In Chavis Alavavis, I just saw in Chavis Alavavis that he's saying a person should move away from the love of this world and get himself closer to the love of next world. Love the closeness that the next world is going to give you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can choose to enjoy this world, or you can choose to enjoy the next world. And Chavis Alavavis says that the love of this world, whatever this world has to offer, and the love of the next world, what the next world has to offer, these are two, he says, like these are two wives of a person. Two wives, a person can never live together, can never stand one another. Each one is competing for attention of their husband. These are two implacable enemies. The love of this world, the love of the next world. Once you sit and you think about it, and you feel this wave of like compulsive, like uncontrollable, either fear or anxiety or lust or craving, stop and reflect. But the thing is that when it happens, it like jumps on you and says, no, you gotta do me, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. You don't know what you're missing. You're just like, it's unbelievable. It's like, says who? What's going to be? It says, so it's a matter of discipline that you do it one more time, another time, another time, another time. And it gets diminished. As you go along, you'll find out that there are suddenly, you don't have taivas that you used to have in the past. They're getting small. Some they get greater because you go into higher madrega. We'll learn about it in Hashem to Chafei. But basically, you can get rid of anxieties, can get rid of fears and paranoias and lusts and cravings by, while it's happening, saying, 1 second, just a minute, just a minute there. And you're thinking about, obviously, when you're talking about fear, you're saying, like, what's the worst that can happen? And when you're talking about a taiva, you're saying, what's the worst that will definitely happen if I go after this? Yeshiva das. This is a tactics that each and every one of us must muster and become proficient at it. Because if you want to be an Oved Hashem, these things will attack you. Anybody who is not interested in Avodas Hashem, these things won't bother. No, I want it. No, whatever it is, normal person behave like a normal people, that's it. But if you want to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu, you want to be an Oved Hashem, you will be attacked. You will be ambushed. Fears, taivas, whatever. The way to do it, reflect, stop, reflect. Ask Kadosh Baruch Hu to help you And before you know it, it will be gone. And then you have one fear that is gone. Then you have another one that is gone. So you find that as you go along, you're able to catch that wild bronco of fear or taiva closer to when it's happening. Then you'll realize when it's actually happening. And then you'll realize before it's actually happening. And ultimately, it won't happen at all. So it's just a minute. But the one thing that you should not do is condemn yourself and say, that's it. I'm like the worst. Forget about it. Chas v'chalila, Hitler and Eichmann and this, we all eat together hummus from one plate. That's it. You're good. You're definitely good. There's a part in you that is anxious, that is afraid. There's a part in you that craves, but it's not you. This is a part of the work that you need to put in order to get what you need to get. That's avodas Hashem. This is called avodas Hashem. It's not a condemnation. It's not a stamp, a rubber stamp that that's it. You're finished. No, opposite. Now you're working. Now you're doing. That's what this is about. B'ezrat Hashem ad kan. This is the Sichos Haran for this week. B'ezrat Hashem Monday nights. We'll learn Sipurei Ma'asos. Hashem should help us. I want to thank each and every one of us, including me, for being here tonight. And B'ezrat Hashem, whoever can be on Monday night, you're welcome. I'd love to see you. Wonderful. Kol tov v'atzlacha b'chol ha'inyonim. Take good care. Bye-bye.